I'm standing in an illegal neighborhood. Well, it's not illegal right here, but it is currently illegal to build this way in most of the country. We're at Culdesac, a walkable community in Tempe, Arizona, with apartments, shops, and restaurants, but no parking. Why do this? Well, think about Budapest, Amsterdam, Tokyo, Paris.
That's a much better way to build a city instead of the sprawl of Phoenix.
This might seem like a new way of building a neighborhood, but it's actually the way we've been doing it for millennia.
It's building the kind of walkable neighborhoods that we built before cars with modern technology.
Could something like this change the way we live?
Immediately, yes.
We couldn't pass it up.
I haven't mastered it yet.
If this can work here, it can work basically anywhere.
And we're entering a very exciting era.
This is Hard Reset. Welcome to Tempe, Arizona, a great place to buy unpainted furniture.
If you can find lower prices anywhere, my name ain't Nathan, Arizona.
But that's not why we're here.
We usually don't show me traveling on these episodes. We just kind of show up somewhere and do something cool. But we're trying to see what it's like when cars aren't necessarily something at your disposal. This is the first time we've traveled for a shoot with all this gear and not rented a car.
For this episode, we committed to using public transportation and ride shares because we're going somewhere that is all about rethinking our relationship with cars. This is Culdesac, a neighborhood in Tempe, Arizona that is trying something new.
Culdesac is a developer and property manager that builds walkable mixed-use neighborhoods.
This is Ryan. He loves this rug. I mean, this can't be a coincidence, right? The general idea here is pretty simple. It's a neighborhood. You rent an apartment, put your stuff there, and live your life. The difference is that you don't have a parking spot. Your car cannot move in with you.
If we didn't do this way, we would have had to either build a structured parking garage with height, or if we did ground parking, it would have had to use much of the land that we have left.
To be clear, the first thing we saw when we arrived was a parking lot. Caught red-handed. But it's actually not what you think. More on that later. The important thing to know is that this parking area isn't for residents. So instead of a dedicated parking spot, you get a neighborhood that has a lot more open space and nicer amenities.
That really frees up the urban design. When we did our first charrette, where you bring in the architects, the landscape engineers, the owners to make the first design, the landscape architect, she said, Ryan, this is going to be my favorite project because every charrette starts with how are we going to park it, and it severely restricts the design from the very beginning and for the worse. Well, instead you get 55% landscape space and you get lots of retail. We have 18 retailers here, and there's not the eyesore of street parking or a parking garage.
But we weren't kidding earlier when we said building a neighborhood like this is illegal in most of the United States.
The biggest reason we don't have more walkable neighborhoods is because they're illegal. Zoning has made it so that we have to build sprawl, we have to build parking, which means that things are really spread out, which means that people have to have a car. And then we look at people having a car and we mistake that for people wanting a car, but it's actually because they didn't have a choice. New development of all kinds requires adding a lot of parking. If you want to build a bar to serve alcohol to people, you're required to build parking spaces so that they can drive there. And I don't think that makes sense at all.
I don't know, it sounds convenient to have your car parked nearby after you've been drinking. Oh, forget I said that.
Walkable neighborhoods are illegal, but I'm not in handcuffs here today. And it's because the city council passed this unanimously where they let us be the first developer to build without residential parking. We looked all over the country for places where this could work. You need to have a growing market with job growth. You need to have a great piece of land. But you also need to have a forward-looking government and a place that welcomes growth. We found all those things here.
But once you've built the complex, it's only going to work if you have other ways for people to get around.
The way that we get a neighborhood to work without private vehicles, it's things like the light rail, AV ride hail, electric bikes, electric scooters, Lyft and Uber, and also car rental services by the hour. And collectively, this lets people choose the right mode of transportation for their journey.
That's pretty different from most American cities.
This is the American dream of freedom on wheels.
Especially the suburbs, which are built around the assumption of car ownership. Why? Because there's no good access to public transportation. But there's usually no good access to public transportation because the neighborhoods are built around car ownership. It's a vicious cycle, reinforced by zoning laws, and it's the reason that Americans own more cars than almost any other country in the world. Except New Zealand? Weird. Anyway, By failing to make cities walkable or connect places with easy public transit, we've created a culture addicted to cars. Ironically, as a result of the fact that we need them to get practically anywhere, we romanticize cars and the open road as symbols of freedom, even though this dependence actually limits our mobility choices.
It's misguided. The average new vehicle costs $48,000. The average monthly payment, monthly costs over $900. This is a real burden on everyone.
But it doesn't matter how many downsides there are to car ownership if there aren't good alternatives people can choose instead. That's why developments like Culdesac are trying to give people that choice back. So, what's it like? The apartments at Culdesac are basically exactly what you'd expect. They're apartments.
Here's a look at one of our one-bedroom units.
Nice kitchen to cook in. There's a lot of room, a lot of countertop space, living area, and then breakfast nook over here.
Perfect.
Sweet.
You have the space to entertain. You can come back into your bedroom, and then you get this large walk-in closet.
This could be an office.
Right.
This could be a two-bedroom apartment in
Right.
San Francisco. Nice bathroom, nice walk-in shower, too.
Yep.
All right, I'm impressed. Does the place come with a sound guy and a PA and a producer?
Those, actually, we can discuss that on the leasing contract, but this one does come with storage.
Oh, okay. Very nice.
The apartments here are cozy and well laid out, but Culdesac isn't trying to hard reset the individual apartment.
Our units cost $1,400 to $2,800. And that's similar to other new construction here in this market. And the square footage is similar to other new projects.
The nicest and most interesting feature is the neighborhood they're a part of, a network of residential, commercial, and shared communal spaces.
You can feel how much cooler it is than being directly in the sun.
Yeah,
but
it feels remarkably cool in here.
Right, like having no asphalt, having these really walkable channels helps keep it significantly cooler than the surrounding area.
Each little city block is self-contained and has nice, comfortable shared social areas. They're connected by cozy little alleyways that are comfortable to walk and bike around in. It feels really nice.
We have the resident barbecues, and you often see folks coming out here after work.
So these little courtyards kind of sprinkled throughout the community.
Yeah, a bunch of these third spaces for people to connect.
It's very nice.
This layout isn't new. They compare it to Mykonos, a city in Greece. In fact, it feels a lot like some of the earliest human cities ever built. We've always designed cities around the transportation that's available at the time. Machu Picchu, walking. Venice and Amsterdam, waterways. New York, trains. American suburbs, cars. So the bet here is that current emerging technologies will leave their imprint on our cities as well.
What are these?
So,
This is James. He's in charge of all things transportation at Culdesac. I don't know why I asked him what a bike is.
these are the most popular electric bike that is sold in the US.
It's pretty tight. I have a large head. This is... Oh, it was off.
I want to make it clear I do know how to ride a bike.
I am not sure I'm using this thing properly.
Electric bikes are a sneaky important technology. It's not just a slight evolution of bikes. You could travel 16 times the area.
You said earlier you're going to ride your bike to the airport.
Yes.
Which
So,
I have to tell you, did not compute.
I've even biked out probably 30 miles. There are a series of paths that get you to downtown Tempe, to ASU. We're working with the city on protected bike lanes up to an outdoor mall. Those places connect with the broader canal trails, which can get you to the rest of the region.
My watch wants to know if I'm doing a workout. The answer is yes.
E-bikes are not just a niche market. They're actually the most popular personal electric vehicle in the world by a wide and growing margin. But could they really compete with cars?
It's become a self-fulfilling prophecy that we have to have a car because we've made it so convenient to have a car. So do you have residents that are just committed to owning a car?
Everybody who owns a car also wants to live in an area like this. I think there are people who own a car and park it at a private lot, and we can't stop them from doing that. I kind of want to shake them and say, you're spending $10,000 a year on this car. That's a lot of Ubers that you can buy with $10,000. Ride-hail in general, that is kind of the introduction to not having your own car. Once you do that once, you can think about all the other trips that could be done without your car.
Right. Have you taught many people how to ride a bike? I appreciate it. Just saying.
This helmet was not uncomfortable at all.
What is Culdesac a hard reset for?
How we've designed cities for the past 100 years. We are fighting against zoning regulations and parking requirements. Those parking requirements make our cities much worse than they otherwise could be. And we're saying there's a better way to do this, and we've created it here.
Like we said earlier, we caught Culdesac red-handed with a parking lot. But those parking spots aren't for the residents. They're actually for the retail businesses.
So if you want to have retail, you need to be able to accept customers from outside. And when you're in a car-dependent place like Phoenix, you're going to need lots of parking. We didn't realize how successful retail would be and how much of a part of the community that it would be. So we have a handful of larger retail spots, but we also have some of these live-work units. They're 500 square feet. They have rents comparable to residential leases and residential lengths. When you lower the barrier for entrepreneurship, it really allows a lot of thriving.
So these units, they're studio units, they're bedrooms, but we permitted them for live work because we thought, maybe down the road at full occupancy, some residents might be interested in opening businesses, but these actually were some of the first units to lease.
After my trip to Tokyo, I was like, the way we live in America is stupid. I noticed there was a bunch of small businesses because the barrier to entry is a lot smaller there. The US, they really don't want you to start a small business, it feels like. I had been looking at other spaces and they were all 3 to 5 year lease, and it was like $5,000 a month, and it's just not accessible for most businesses unless you have outside funding.
We've kind of established like a really dope little community of retailers. A lot of my foot traffic has been organic foot traffic from other businesses like King Can or So Used or the coffee shop.
This is Adrian. He started a fashion label while he was still in high school, and now he's able to use his live-work apartment to also run a retail operation.
Retail leases in Arizona, they're like for 5 years, they're way more expensive than it would be to rent a one-bedroom apartment in Tempe. So this was also just like a way more accessible way to get a brick-and-mortar location for my business. The growth has just been like almost exponential.
Do you have this in an XL?
Only a large, but I think you can fit it.
Sorry.
This is like the perfect spot. It's way less inventory to start up, and then the leases are much more flexible since it is a residential space. You didn't feel like if I break the lease, I'm going to go bankrupt.
I kind of call it like an incubator business. You can kind of really test out how it goes. So
it's really Luca's shop.
It is Luca's shop. Yeah, he's the manager. We joke.
I also got to check out the Thursday night Little Choya market that several micro vendors got their start at. It was indeed lovely.
These all your designs?
Yes, I do the artwork for everything.
Oh, it's amazing.
Thank you.
Can I write down a list of the stickers I need, or should I just list them off to you? Pretty solid haul at the Little Choya night market. I'm pretty sure this is actually my cat stickers. Cat ramen, paladin, looks like my other cat. Pretty sure it's actually Junebug. The anarchy frog, it just spoke to me.
But after all that socializing, I needed a break. So I found one of the little reading nooks where I could hide away and read my book. How does this work? Good Lord. It was just what I needed.
Just kidding. I'm at work. I don't have time to read. Let's go ride a train. Okay, so I'm at the light rail station, which is just across the street. I'm gonna hop on a train and see what downtown Tempe is like. Actually, I'm at work and I don't have time for that, but I wanted to let you know you could do that if you wanted to.
After all that adventuring and biking, I was ready to call it a night.
I'm just kidding. I'm at work. I don't have time for sleep.
You guys don't have to stick around for all this. So, what's it like to live in Culdesac? It's impossible for one short trip to paint a complete picture. But overall, I have to say, it was really pleasant. It's an interesting look at how we can build more places that give people the choice of living without a car. So, picture a scenario where it wasn't illegal to build a car-free community. What could our cities look like if we continued down this path? If we escaped the circular logic that keeps us committed to sprawl, committed to longer commutes and wider freeways that never actually seem to outgrow the congestion?
There's going to be many millions more car-free people, and we're going to be building a lot more neighborhoods like this. It's going to create much better cities. We're going to have neighborhoods the quality of the West Village in New York for a fraction of the price. We're going to be able to get around faster, cheaper, and better.
Walkable cities aren't just about saving money. They're also about your health and your happiness. Research shows that people in walkable cities are less likely to be depressed or lonely, more likely to know and trust their neighbors, and a lot more likely to be active in their community. Of course, none of this means an end to cars. For many people, including myself, a car will always be a practical choice for work. These things do not make me popular on the bus. And when it comes to designing cities, not everyone has the same priorities or concerns. Just because we have nice new light rail projects doesn't mean everyone will feel safe riding on them after dark. The problems are part of our culture as much as our infrastructure. And cars do offer a sense of independence and freedom. The idea that you can just drive off into the sunset and follow whatever road you want. But how often do you drive off into that sunset? And how often do you just sit in traffic?
Whether you care the most about climate, health, happiness, low living costs, small government, freedom, getting more people living in walkable neighborhoods is one of the best things that we can do.
Ultimately, more transportation options and the cities that embrace them won't mean fewer options for you. They'll just mean that the people who can't drive or don't want to won't be stranded.
If I lived here and I owned a car, could I leave it out here, or would the Culdesac police take me away?